Welcome back to the Contrarian, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today is Tuesday, February 4th, after the market close, and we have some big headlines today, although it seems like every day there's kind of a lot of stuff happening right now, of course, with the new Trump administration and all that they're doing. But the big ticket items today that I will talk about are vaccine and pharma stocks tanking on a likely RFK Jr. confirmation. Also, David Sachs, at the press conference he gave, he discussed that they are considering a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and Bitcoin actually tanked on that news. And then I'm just overall going to talk about the speed of the news cycle right now that we're going through. Maybe kind of what my expectations are with that. That's a huge topic altogether. But, first off, talking about the likely RFK Jr. confirmation for the Secretary of Health and Human Services. RFK Jr. was actually a kind of unlikely candidate who back in August teamed up with Donald Trump. And, in my opinion, it really was kind of one of the key decisions that the Trump team made that actually ended up winning them the election and winning in a pretty sizable manner. I think RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and some of the other more moderates and actually former Democrats who moved over to the Trump team did probably bring a lot of the undecided voters with them, or the maybe voters who liked these candidates to begin with and saw them teaming up with Trump as a way to actually bring a lot of their ideas into a new administration. So it's looking like RFK Jr. will be confirmed in the Senate. He barely made it through a Senate panel vote. I believe it was a 14-13 vote, so it was really only one vote that made it to where he moved on to actually going to be confirmed in the Senate. Right now, Polymarket is putting his confirmation at around 98% likelihood, so it's all but certain that RFK Jr. will be confirmed as the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. It's the same story with Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel. I would say these three candidates were probably the ones that had the most pushback, although, Pete Hegseth did as well, but he was a little more perhaps easy of a confirmation. But, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK for sure, these two are definitely bulls in china shops when it comes to kind of disrupting the status quo, especially of the Democratic Party, because Tulsi is a former Democrat representative or senator, congresswoman from Hawaii. RFK Jr. is a former, lifelong Democrat, and both of them were pretty much kicked out of their own party. And so now that they're teaming up with the Trump team, it does bring a lot of disruption to the table, to say the least. And, watching some of the objections that were brought to the table with Tulsi and RFK, it really wasn't any sort of legitimate concerns. It was more so, I would say, a revealing on the part of a lot of the opposition in terms of just how infiltrated the U.S. Congress is at this point with special interests, especially thinking about pharmaceutical companies, just how much they have lobbied against RFK Jr. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, Bernie Sanders, for a while, he was seen as kind of the contrarian voice for sure. He was seen as kind of the rebel in the Democratic Party, and then it comes out that he has been, probably given millions of dollars, by pharmaceutical companies to oppose RFK Jr. And now, with that likely confirmation of RFK Jr., not only was it ineffective on the part of Bernie and the other Democrats, but it really does, I would say, kind of sink any hopes they had of being seen as kind of the opposition or, being outside of the establishment, because at this point they are part of it. And so, this definitely did spill over into the effect that this likely confirmation has on the stock market. Of course, the market is pricing this in, and as a result, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca stocks, pharmaceutical stocks, generally speaking, across the board are down bigly today, and they are down bigly in the last 3 months since the result of the election. Of course, Moderna and Pfizer are nowhere near the highs they saw back in 2021 when they were part of the whole COVID grift and the vaccine grift that went on then. And, it's been all downhill from there. But they did face another leg down with the result of the election in February. And, I don't know what the path forward for these companies is because let's say RFK Jr. is confirmed. I think that's likely. He's definitely going to go after kind of the number one thing he's talked about is just the immunity that these pharmaceutical companies have from being sued in terms of negative effects that their vaccines or pharmaceuticals have had. If he's successfully able to strip immunity away from these vaccine manufacturers especially, but just pharmaceutical companies speaking generally, I mean, I would see a lot of lawsuits being brought to the table as highly likely, some of which might have actual standing and could cost these companies quite a bit. So I don't know what the path forward for these companies really is. Of course, we need pharmaceutical companies to be successful. There are a lot of pharmaceuticals that are necessary, but then there's also the kind of grift side of the pharmaceutical industry that I think most people have awakened to after COVID, and I think that side of it definitely needs to be ended. But in terms of how it ends, I don't know if some of these vaccine companies can actually, continue if that does happen, where they're stripped of the immunity of being sued for negative effects that they've had, because I'm guessing there would be a lot of lawsuits that would come forward if they could be successfully brought against these pharmaceutical companies. So in light of that, a lot of these stocks are down bigly, and I'm definitely not one to say that they would bounce or anything like that, because I think the market is correct in terms of pricing in a likely RFK Jr. and Make America Healthy Again type of agenda, which, kind of as a side note, as someone who has been really blessed in the last 2 years doing a very, non-traditional, non-mainstream medicine kind of approved diet, the carnivore diet, I've been very blessed the last 2 years just with all of the results that has had. And so I can really appreciate this kind of, vision that RFK Jr., a lot of other Make America Healthy Again people have. Just, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that America, health-wise, has been on a terrible trajectory in the last several decades. And if that trend continues, if health continues to deteriorate, there is no future for coming generations in the United States. And so really do have to turn around the ship, and I hope this marks an important inflection point with regards to that with RFK Jr. So, all that being said, I'm now going to talk about David Sachs today in his press release discussing that they are considering a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And what's even more surprising on this news is that Bitcoin tanked big time on this news. I mean, I think it was up beginning of the day, and then right after this press conference, it tanked some 4 or 5%. So it's back under 100,000 again. And I think bottom line is that the kind of Bitcoin maxis crowd and crypto crowd was, I think, relying on David Sachs announcing something more significant than they were just considering this, because, if they're still just considering it, I think it's a lot less certain than what a lot of these people were perhaps expecting or hoping for. If he'd said that, yes, we will establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that would have been, the best kind of news possible that Bitcoin could have had, and it would have, I'm sure, rallied significantly on that. But, the news that they're just considering it, I think is more pessimistic than what a lot of people were hoping for. I myself am not involved in crypto at all. I'm kind of observing what happens to it because, on the one hand, yes, Trump did launch his own kind of pump and dump token and everything like that. Melania did too. And in some ways, I kind of view that as just kind of a way of them, bringing a lot of attention away from his underlying actions, what he's doing, all his executive orders. I think it was successful probably the first few days after his inauguration as a distraction. But, at this point, I don't know what what their whole agenda is with Bitcoin or crypto. Trump has said that he will be doing something with crypto, but of course, that's very vague and could completely not happen at all. But if they do anything with crypto, I think it's likely that it does involve a blockchain kind of technology. It's probably not in the sense of what a lot of people in crypto already are hoping for, because if it's, for example, trying to launch a central bank digital currency or something like that, a lot of the crypto people, rightly so, are skeptical, don't want a CBDC to happen. But if that's the kind of crypto direction that Trump is wanting to go, or others in his administration, I don't think the crypto people would be happy with that, and it definitely wouldn't benefit something like Bitcoin or any established cryptocurrencies. Maybe they're going to take an underlying technology, like maybe something that's behind, Cardano, for example, something that could actually be used as a payment type of system. Maybe they're talking about using something like that. But, overall, really remains to be seen what they're doing with crypto. And, in my mind, I don't see a strategic Bitcoin reserve as likely. I mean, already the CIA has confiscated a lot of Bitcoin, and that is technically already, the federal government's. So they do technically have a strategic Bitcoin reserve already. B, I would hope that there's just a lot of common sense people in there that see how volatile of a asset or token it is, and that would not want to go that direction. I think Trump included, I think he is still wise enough to see that crypto, Bitcoin especially, is just way too volatile of an asset to have something like the federal government have a strategic reserve in. But I've been surprised by things he has done already, so maybe I'm incorrect here as well. Overall, I'm just going to comment on the speed of the news cycle right now, because it is really hard to keep up with everything, and I'm definitely not capable of keeping up with everything. It usually comes to just me seeing different things that come up on my feed on X or Twitter, and that tends to be where I see things that happen. Is coming up on my X feed. But overall, it does seem like we're heading into a period, probably for the next few months, if not longer than that, where once you get the kind of confirmations and everything like that, people in place in Trump's administration, then he can really start to do a lot of things. And already he has been doing a lot of things, but I think especially once you get Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and others formally in their positions, I think then you can really start to see some major things happen. Talking about like changes with regards to regulating pharmaceutical industries, exposing them to lawsuits, whether it be with Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard bringing a lot more accountability to the intelligence side of things, which I think most people would appreciate. And there might be even more, revelations with regards to what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are doing in the whole Doge committee. Already they revealed just a lot of, I would say, kind of unsurprising wastes of taxpayer money that has occurred. And, if that continues, I think people will probably begin to wake up, I would expect, to kind of the underlying problems that are there of, for a while just really having very little, if no, accountability for where a lot of federally, derived money is going. Whether it's going to foreign aid or just all these kind of random programs everywhere, there really has not been much accountability for that. And, with Elon and Vivek auditing a lot of these things, whether it's the U.S. aid right now or then going to the IRS or Department of Education or other things, I think that will continue to uncover a lot of underlying fraud that has occurred. And just as a result of that, I do expect for people to probably continue to lose faith that they may have had in a lot of these government programs. So, I think it'll be kind of a turbulent coming few months. We'll really need to wait and see what occurs with all of that, but some encouraging developments in regards to Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and everything like that. It does appear like things are back up and running. We'll have to see what direction things go and everything like that, what effects they have long term, of course. Have to see what occurs with crypto, if anything. Yeah, I would love to know what all of you think about this. Vaccine stocks tanking, Bitcoin reserve, overall speed of the news cycle. Love to know what you think and hope to see all of you again.